Born in Blood by COVID Candy. Chapter 21, Binding Oath. The sounds of stone grinding against stone continued before abruptly stopping. Lloyd took the first step, followed by Liam. It was a spiral stairway that led downward, illuminated by lit candles, the wax of which didn't seem to melt. Eventually, they reached a vast base. The square area was made out of uneven stone, lit by white chandeliers hanging from the ceiling. However, the space wasn't furnished. Connected to the base were dark, clean-cut corridors and alleyways that led further in. "Liam, young man. I knew you would accept." David spread his arms, greeting the pair as he approached. He donned his usual white robe, but there seemed to be a veil of happiness over his usually stern face. Shifting his gaze to Lloyd, David exchanged a quick, blank nod. Before turning back to Liam. "Let me give you a quick tour." With that, the robed noble began leading the two down a hallway, their steps creating acute tapping noises. The narrow corridor led to a much larger, but empty field. The air was cold, stiffening Liam's skin. However, inscriptions and strange writings covered the floor, around a square perimeter to be exact. From where the trio were standing, there was a small table upon which different tablets rested. "Here, you'll learn the ins and outs about the homes of your victims. Also, you'll be briefed and taught more about assassination itself." David picked up a random tablet, placing it on a hollow compartment inside the table. Suddenly, the inscriptions on the ground lit up. Tremors echoed throughout the ground, and from the field, pieces of the earth arose to erect walls and build roofs. After a few minutes, it resembled a large mansion, similar to the White House from Earth. Liam's jaw was wide open. He simply didn't have any words to describe the scene. "I'm sure you don't regret your decision already. Let's move on." David grinned, taking Liam out of his stupor. Lloyd had no particular expression on his face, simply nodding in silence. "Judging by the mansion, won't my targets be the nobles? No wonder they keep it hidden." Liam also confirmed that his job would entail much more difficulty compared to the others, but he expected that much. Another hallway led to a dungeon-like area. Within the walls were large, dug-out holes. Caves, to be precise. You'll be assigned one of these aura caves. They're much more concentrated compared to those above, roughly twice as much. Liam nodded, forcing back a smile that threatened to appear on his face. "Your peers are few, but much older than you. Don't be discouraged, though. You're not too far behind." Along with that area, there was a space made for bathing and wearing clothes. There were even lockers to store personal items in. Just a few more things to see, then you can start cultivating and training for your missions. The next area was a mission room. There were various boards that had leather posters plastered on its surface, explaining the requirements and description of the work. David didn't linger in that room for too long, quickly showing the rest of the guild areas. There was also a map room, exuding antiquity and knowledge. It was filled to the brim with parchments that showed the topography of Ucklad, and beyond. Liam wanted to study the maps in that room, but David had already begun walking. After that, the trio reached an armory. However, the exquisite and expensive-looking weapons, except the pills, and elegant armors that it had weren't for sale. Within the armory, a plump, middle-aged lady donning a plain robe sat behind a marble counter. Her hair was ivory blonde, and her irises amber. "This is Ava. She can answer any inquiries you might have. Also, she's the sole proprietor for techniques and spells you can purchase." Ava let out a warm smile as she waved her hand. Liam solemnly nodded. "If you think a mission is too difficult for you, you can rent out these items with merit points. I reckon that's enough explaining. You've got the gist of how things work. Though, there's just a binding oath left for you to take." David's expression held something sinister, causing Liam to inwardly scowl. "Binding oath?" Lloyd sighed, breaking his silence. "It's just a simple measure for their teachings not to be disclosed to anyone." David flicked his wrist, taking out an inscribed stone tablet from his ring. "Put some aura into it, and so will I. This constitutes a binding oath. If you break our agreement, may your course shatter." Liam felt a bead of sweat running down his forehead. In exchange for our teachings, resources, and support, you will never reveal our workings to anyone. So that's why Lloyd couldn't tell me anything, Liam thought. Liam reluctantly inserted his aura into the stone, and the tablet glowed with a yellow light. David did the same. A moment later, Liam felt a hidden, silent force loom against his abdomen, marking it. Now, with that out of the way, you're officially a member. Chapter 22, First Mission. The tour and Liam's integration to the guild had concluded. David had a wide smile on his face. Before he parted ways, he handed Liam a black metal token with the number 0 on it. That will store your merits. Be sure not to lose it. Your assassination mentor will be coming back soon, be sure to introduce yourself when you see her. In addition to that, he handed Liam a map, and a small box container the size of fist. On that map, you'll learn the layouts and surroundings of Ucklad. Specifically, the wealthy side. After explaining a few more things, David parted ways. Liam instantly opened the container, finding a small black ring resting atop a small red pillow. A space ring? Liam's eyes lit up. He eagerly looked towards Lloyd. How do I make it work? Space rings were very expensive inscribed items. Liam had only seen it on the fingers of richer cultivators. In the first place, they weren't commonly found. Lloyd leaned in and chuckled. Pour some aura into it. It'll contain your imprint and only you can use it, unless the imprint is wiped out with strong mental energy. Liam did exactly that. The ring glowed with a golden yellow color, before settling into a dull black. Liam inspected the ring using his sea of consciousness, feeling a faint connection to the item. Inside, there was roughly 10 square meters of space. He took out the psionic rune from his clothing's pocket, and as he willed it, the rune was sucked into the ring. A wide grin formed on his face. Now, I'm sure you're itching to cultivate. Lloyd slapped his student's back with a laugh. Good luck, kid. Liam scratched the side of his head, before heading straight towards the Aura cave. Lloyd had departed himself, too. However, right as Liam made his way there, he felt a cold and sharp sensation on his neck, as though the tip of a needle had kissed his skin. Don't move, a woman's voice demanded behind him, her tone filled with bloodlust and chilling coldness. Who are you? Liam scowled, staring at the glinting needle from the corner of his eye. Damn it. I didn't hear or sense a single thing from this woman. Wait, could she be the guild mentor? Relax, dumbass. I'm a new member. The needle pressing against his neck slightly softened at those words, before detaching from it entirely. Liam jolted around and created distance, assessing his assailant, his grip on the hilt of his knight blades. The lady had short blonde hair tied to a ponytail. Her pale complexion contrasted with her cold brown eyes, which exuded strength. Currently, a dumbfounded expression sat on her face. She wore a fancier version of the assassin's attire found at the guild, made out of a gleaming black leather. Her sleeves covered her shoulders, while her arms were covered with a see-through black mesh. Her slender fingers still held the blood-stained needle. You? But you're just a child? David didn't tell me anything about a new member. Liam grimaced, his grip still on his blade hilts. The child you just tried to kill. The lady scoffed, her eyes scanning Liam's figure from head to toe. Well, you don't talk your age. Your name? Liam eventually sighed. Liam. The lady let out a sinister grin. I'm Ophis. Pleased to make your acquaintance. The sky was overcast and snow began to fall over Ucklad. It began with just a few snowflakes, but soon developed into a chilling blizzard. After a week of snowfall, everything had turned white and the accompanying cold froze the entire region. Winter had bore its icy fangs. Many poor peasants would often perish during this time. Their threadbare rags simply didn't hold back the deadly frost. In the coming weeks, many events took place. Liam had completed 2 tempering cycles, advancing his body towards the beginnings of the upper stage of rank 1. His physical strength increased significantly, but there was still a long road to the next rank. At that point, his body had gotten used to the excruciating pain and heat. Completing the future cycles didn't seem difficult anymore. Liam divided his schedule between cultivating his body and expanding his mental sphere. Nearly all his time had been spent inside the dense aura cave. At some point, Liam had gained the ability to spread his senses. It was completely subconscious, like stretching a muscle. Doing so, he could vaguely discern his surroundings without his ears or eyes. During one of his tempering cycles, he asked Lloyd for guidance. His mentor had a shocked look on his face. "Can you seriously do that?" Liam nodded, prompting an incredulous but proud smile from Lloyd. "What you're doing is spreading your mental waves throughout your surroundings. Usually, one should reach this level in 5 to 6 months from training with the rune." Liam only had 2 complete months with the psionic rune. However, he hadn't taken a day off in that period. "Wait, doesn't that mean if I continue doing this, I'll become a rank 1 magus in less than a year?" Cultivators with a rank 1 sea of consciousness were called magi, since they had the ability to use spells. A dangerous glint appeared in Liam's eyes. Over time, Liam learned more about how the guild system worked. Missions were divided between main and secondary. Main missions consisted of proper assassinations. They held the most reward, but just as much difficulty. Small noble houses were oftentimes the victim, but not limited to it. Of course, these noble families had different levels of strength, beginning with small size, and ending with large size families. Even underground businessmen and merchants had a price on their heads. The higher rank the assassin was, the more difficult missions they had access to. The riskier targets they could assassinate. Secondary missions were diverse. Liam could freely hunt, search for special materials and herbs, and defend villages from bandits and magical beasts, etc. Basically, Liam had become an assassin, but had access to all other branches of the guild. Besides that, there were mandatory training sessions that Liam had to complete before taking his first main mission. To his surprise, it was much more tortuous than he imagined, consisting of poison training, seclusion in complete darkness, infiltration, starvation, and more. For the former, the poison would strengthen his body's immunity, dulling and cleansing the toxin's effectiveness. The seclusion in darkness would allow his eyes to adjust to the shadows. Although expanding his mental sphere gave him similar capabilities, this type of training bolstered its speed. Starvation would hone his focus, since cognitive function, learning, memory, and awareness were all bolstered by fasting. Not only that, but Ophis was similar to Lloyd in how they both were unrelenting in training. Soon, it was time for Liam's first assassination mission. Chapter 23, Arrogance. A luxurious carriage drawn by a domesticated horse-type magical beast made its way through the streets of Ucklad. The exterior of the vehicle was pure black, made from a mix of gleaming black metal and wood. Any peasant witnessing the car go by would make a respectful gesture, hectically making way for it. Eventually, the carriage reached a giant, stern wall, guarded by armored soldiers wielding various weapons. "Halt!" The coachman holding the reins stopped at the entrance, approached by a tall guard. "Family name?" the guard asked rudely, his impatient face scrunched. The coachman took out a golden token and flashed it towards the soldier. Instantly, the guard regretted his loud voice. He lowered his gaze and spoke with a soft tone. "My apologies, sir. Please enter." With indifference, the coachman slapped the reins on his beast, and the ride resumed, entering the wealthy side. Inside the posh interior of the carriage, a young man donning a black robe gazed out the window. His short blonde hair was slicked backwards, and his tranquil green eyes were in deep thought. 3 golden earrings that looked like teardrops hung from his right ear. If anyone had seen this young man, they would have realized he was from a large-sized noble family. Liam didn't dare train the night before the mission, resting his body to reach peak condition. He had already told Eve he'd be late that night, and had filled his body with as much aura as he could. The scenery past the open doors wasn't what Liam expected. Snow-covered topiaries that were tended to and skillfully designed covered the sides of the road. There was only plain snow in the distance, and straight ahead was what looked to be a large border wall that had a slight curve. Eventually, the carriage reached it, allowing Liam to see how the entire border walls contained intricate black lines, among which rested white, and even multicolored writings. The border walls sunk downwards to the ground to let the carriage in, and inside was something Liam had expected to see. It began with small luxury houses and other establishments, slowly growing in size as they went along. Eventually, huge mansions covered entire plots of lush green land, along with other 3-story to 4-story buildings. Nonetheless, he had enough information to know about what to expect. The roads were wide enough for 3 to 4 more large-sized carriages to traverse through side by side, which there were, most seemingly going in the same direction. The rhythmic sound of hooves hitting the ground continued for a few more minutes, allowing Liam to truly memorize the landscapes. Finally, it came to a stop. Looking out the window, there were numerous other carriages like his, all parked on the side of a huge white mansion 3 stories in height. In front, by the grand entrance, butlers and other servants tended to the nobles and paid deep respects to them before they entered. Red carpets covered the floor where they walked, and the faint sound of music entered Liam's ears. Heaving a deep breath, Liam opened his carriage door like many others, walking out with a charismatic aura. However, his gait was prideful and arrogant. "I can't think like I usually do. I'm an arrogant noble who hails from a large-sized noble house." Snow drizzled from above, and with vigilant steps, Liam approached the butlers who confirmed the identities of each noble. "Welcome, young master. May I have your name, please?" Liam scoffed, as though offended by that question. "William Arnos." The pale-faced butler panicked, looking at the clipboard in his hand, before ticking it after a moment. Please enjoy your stay." Liam spared no time and made his way through the doors of the mansion, entering and surveying the surroundings. All around him, lavishly dressed men and women danced, laughed, joked, and sang. Beautiful women wearing dazzling dresses of various colors socialized with each other. Even young maidens slightly older than Liam's age were no exception. However, most of them had one golden earring, while few had 2. Butlers and maids carried trays of champagne, casually handing them around. The ground floor of the mansion was nothing short of a 5-star hotel. Chandeliers hung from the ceiling and illuminated every corner of the space. Musicians performed in the left side corner, their music consisting of piano and violin, as well as other posh instruments meant for only the higher class. Expensive furniture and other decorations covered the entire area, and towards Liam's left and right were long hallways that lead to upper floors. The smell of various perfumes entered his nose, the best he had smelled during his 2 lives. When the nobles saw Liam's earrings, they quickly showed him their deep respects. "So, this is what it's like to be rich. I already know the layout. I'll need to disable any protective arrays or inscriptions." Liam's nerves were calm and focused as he remembered what he learned. Arrays, also known as formations, were giant diagrams that produced various effects in a wide range. It was no surprise that noble houses had their own way of security. The number of cultivators here are not that many. Despite being so lavish, these nobles are only small-sized families, not to mention this is a weak branch of it, so they didn't come with many guards or protections. Liam's expression was casual with a tinge of arrogance, but time was ticking, and the stakes were high. "I can't loiter around. I'll wait for the party address first." Liam inspected his surroundings once more. He quickly realized he was being sized up and down by a group of young girls his age, whispering in each other's ears. To deter them, he simply had to put on a disgusted expression paired with a quick scoff. His plan worked, as they looked utterly offended and shot stares of venom his direction. Ting! 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 Before long, the sound of a spoon hitting a champagne glass resounded through the space, catching the attention of everyone present. There he is. Chapter 24, Target. Ahem. Right ahead, a man with azure eyes and short black hair cleared his throat, standing on top of an elevation a few steps higher than the rest. His belly was oval-shaped and protruded through his dark green robe, while a wide grin rested on his face. There he is. Liam's gaze fixed on the man known as Vammer Belson, his target. Vammer had secretly been supplying bandits and outlaws with strengthening pills and various weapons, and ordering them to attack rival families. Behind him were two burly figures, wearing dark black robes. 2 out of 7, Liam's gaze shifted to the robed figures, as he recalled the number of cultivators surrounding the premise. Most of them were actually stronger than Liam, having a rank 2 body and rank 1 core. However, they weren't magi, since they weren't allowed access to a psionic rune. This didn't mean that they didn't have enhanced senses. There were other ways to expand the mental sphere, after all. The nobles had to keep a tight leash on those who worked under them. Give them too much power, and they'll start to rattle and shake the chain of command. This fact alone gave Liam the ability to assassinate Vammer, but he had to be cunning and swift in order to accomplish it. He had no intention of fighting against the 2 bodyguards, but if it came to it, he had more than a few extra cards up his sleeve. "Thank you all for attending," Vammer said proudly, his eyes sweeping the crowd while his voice had a clear charm to it. "There's not a lot of chances that the Belson family gets to host a get-together among the nobles here in Ucklad." Vammer continued to address the crowd for a few more minutes, cracking jokes and singling out a few other noblemen to poke friendly fun at. Laughter spread across the crowd, but Liam, playing his hot-headed and arrogant noble personality, kept a stoic and unimpressed face. "I hope the drinks and food are to your liking, ladies and gentlemen. Please, enjoy." The noblemen and women clapped as he left the stage, going towards the right hallway, followed by his personal bodyguards. Liam's eyes followed Vammer from a distance, before his plan slowly started to flow into motion. From what the blueprint stated, soon, Vammer would be in his office for at least half an hour. His office was connected to a glass pane window from the outside, which was easy to climb through. Still, without disabling the arrays, it was impossible for Liam to climb in and out without risking his identity and location being known. "I need to get close to the control room. From the layout, it's just one cultivator and he's not that strong either. The array only covers the outside of the premise, so I should be fine as long as no one sees me." The array Liam was referring to was a location monitoring array. It allowed for the cultivator controlling it to see all living beings inside the mansion and out. "Where's the bathroom?" Liam questioned a gentle-faced maid. The maid made a respectful gesture, instantly leading him into one of the long hallways and showing him the bathroom door. After Liam entered, the maid left and tended to the other nobles. He made sure there wasn't anyone in the bathroom stalls, before quickly entering the bathroom stall and taking off his black robe. A moment later, he took out a pitch-black clothing and put it on. It was made from the leather of a rank 2 dusk owl, and came with a hood and cloak that wrapped tightly around his body, covering his hair and face, leaving only his eyes open. Before Liam exited the stalls, he masked himself with a coating of mental energy, completely hiding his presence from other cultivators and people. This skill had been the most valuable one he'd learned from Ophis, giving him a sharp edge over unsuspecting opponents. Liam looked left and right over the hallways, seeing that the coast was clear. He carefully made his way out and went deeper down the hallway. There wasn't anyone in sight, and servants weren't stationed at this part of the mansion. It seemed like all the amenities for guests were on the center of the first floor. Stairs leading up to the second floor appeared in his sight, and a patrolling guard slowly descended. Liam quickly hid himself behind the corner of the wall, and the guard took a quick look around, before going up the stairs once again. As Liam tailed the guard, his footsteps and even breathing made no noise. Another strong skill he had learned in the guild. The music became slightly muffled as they got up, and the surroundings weren't as lit as the bottom floor, giving it a dark air. Suddenly, the guard he was tailing brought out a flickering jade stone from his pocket, seemingly imbuing it with his aura. A voice exited the stone, the words of which Liam couldn't discern. "Walkie-talkies? They have walkie-talkies?" The revelation came to him as a shock, but nonetheless, he kept calm. No? Why do you ask?" the guard suddenly said, confused. The voice coming from the jade stone seemed to be saying something, before the guard's body visibly tensed up. Instantly, the guard jolted around, a clad iron blade materializing in his hand as he swung. However, he saw nothing except a long, silent hallway looking back at him. Chapter 25, Reminder. Gazing at the empty hallway, the soldier felt utterly embarrassed and humiliated. Ugh, you retard. Stop scaring me for no reason. There's nothing here, the stern guard said with anger and relief in his voice, before instantly turning the jade stone off. Meanwhile, Liam was behind the guard, imitating his movements like a mirror. Although mental energy was used to hide one's presence, it largely depended on the mental strength of the cultivator himself. The skill didn't have any effect on those who were stronger than him in that aspect. I need to move fast. If the one controlling the array is aware of my presence, it won't be long before he alerts the others. The guard finally went back towards the stairs, completing the same old routine. Another long hallway presented itself to Liam straight ahead. The corridor was T-shaped, and led to 2 additional paths left and right. Liam waited until the guard went downstairs, before his eyes shifted between the hallways. Silently, he started to run towards the right. Inside a small but cozy room, faint smoke floated around a black-robed, bug-eyed figure. He sat across a table, which projected a holographic map, filled with numerous green dots that represented people. A curved, wooden pipe sat on his lips as he huffed and puffed out smoke. His vigilant brown irises scanned the various dots as they moved around. When he saw one of the dots vanish within the bathroom, his eyes narrowed to slits. What's that about? Upon a closer inspection, the dot was still visible, only it faded in and out at different locations. Suddenly, the dot started to walk awfully close to one of the guards, represented by red dots. The monitor narrowed his eyes, before quickly grabbing his jade stone and calling the guard. The jade's glow flickered on and off for a moment, before it became constant. Number 4, do you not see anything unusual? The monitor asked with squinted eyes and a bit of caution. Something wasn't right. No? Why do you ask? The guard's response confused the monitor deeply. Someone was right behind him. How could he not see it? Carefully look behind yourself. There's someone tailing you, he shouted with panic, spitting out his pipe and hastily taking out his jade stones to alert the other guards. A momentary pause took over the call, before the guard's response came through. Ugh, you retard. Stop scaring me for no reason. There's nothing here. Thus, the jade turned off, stopping the monitor in his tracks before he could alert the others. Suddenly, the green dot popped up awfully close to the windowsill of his room to the right, causing his eyes to widen in shock. A cold, muffled voice rang out before the guard could turn his gaze towards it. You move, you die. A cold sweat fell down the monitor's forehead, and his hand subconsciously reached for the jade stones in his pocket. Liam's eyes flickered with a dark light, before he swiped across the monitor's neck. The poor man's head slid across his shoulders, spurting blood across the room. His body thudded on the holographic map, before the projection flickered off and lost its glow. Should have listened. The source of the array was the cultivator himself, and with him dead, Liam's focus instantly shifted to Vamer's location. I have a rough 30-minute window to kill him before they find out that their array is disabled and increase their protections around him, Liam thought, before searching the cultivator's belongings and taking his space ring, as well as making sure to hide the jade stones he had. He hid the body as well, before carefully leaving the room and spreading his senses. Liam had one specific location in mind, specifically where Vamer himself would be in. 2 corridors to the right, 1 to the front. He'll be there. With that spot in mind, Liam began to move. Instantly, he sensed more cultivators patrolling the hallways further up, which he couldn't go through without instigating a fight. Spotting the window by the end of his corridor, he jumped out of it and perched on its ledge, the cold air stiffening his exposed skin. The night was dark, and thick snow drizzled from above. Few stars could be seen from the dense gray clouds. Right below him, there were guards patrolling the premise, who thankfully didn't care to look above. Liam didn't take in the sight and began to jump between ledges, avoiding the windowsills which had their lights on. After traversing enough distance, Liam's gaze fixed on a window that exuded a cozy yellow light, which he leaped towards and silently peeked through. Vammer was unsuspecting, pacing left and right in his study room with a jade in his hand. As he spoke, his tone was filled with scorn and disappointment. "You stupid fools. Because of your incompetence, the Royce family is crawling up my behind. Stop any current operations and go back into hiding. I'll have a talk with that maniac leader of yours. Until then, don't you dare make a single move." After he spoke those words, he threw the jade on the ground and stomped on it, shattering it. Liam's eyes flickered with a dark light as he pulled open the window. The wind blew and howled, making the curtains flutter violently. Vammer instantly turned his head to see where the noise came from, just for his vision to go dark with a sharp, but fleeting pain. Vammer's neck separated from his body, making a thud sound as it fell to the red-carpeted floor, brightened by the blood that stained it. Staring at the gruesome scene, Liam shook his head. He had learned multiple ways of assassination, most certainly cleaner and less painful than decapitation, but this method had been specifically requested from the guild. A stern reminder for those who defy authority. Chapter 26, Wealth. Liam couldn't afford to waste time. He inspected Vammer's person, taking off the space ring resting on his finger. He began inspecting the room itself, hurriedly opening the drawers, cabinets, and dressers. His search was fruitful, as he managed to find a container of pills that varied in size and color. He quickly stored it in his space ring, before leaving the room once and for all. Through a similar route, he made his way to a cold storage room, filled with containers and boxes. From the sounds of music still playing, Liam knew the bodies hadn't been found yet. He silently entered the bathroom stall without being spotted, and changed his clothes back into the dark black robe, putting on his golden earrings, before making his way back to the party. The celebration continued like usual. Most of the nobles were drunk, their faces flushed as they continued to laugh and dance. Liam couldn't help but look down on such people. Like animals, they waste their life. They could be doing so much more with their wealth and status, but they piss it away for nothing. He shook his head inwardly, heading by the banquet area and picking up a meal. As much as he wanted to leave, to cultivate no doubt, he couldn't. He needed to wait until the bodies were found and fear made its way in the nobles' hearts. Before long, multiple robed figures diverged to where Vammer's office was, and grave expressions were on their faces. They first stopped the musicians from playing any music, before grabbing everyone's attention. "Noblemen and women, may I have your attention please?" The strongest among them spoke, a grave look on his face as he swept the crowd. The partiers shifted their focus to the guard, pausing all their activities. "Master Vammer has been assassinated. Reinforcements are arriving shortly." Gasps resounded all throughout the floor, with looks of shock and horror plastered on their faces. Liam himself acted surprised, blending in flawlessly within the crowd. Yet anyone who paid astute attention could tell his expression was a bit forced and unnatural. "Vammer has been murdered? Who could infiltrate a noble manor like this? Wait, did you catch the killer?" The guard shook his head, plunging the crowd into chaos and panic. Some started to run out the door, clutching the hands of their children, taking out their jades and calling for their guards, uncaring of how cowardly it looked. Soon, all present nobles followed suit, pushing and shoving each other to exit through the main gate. Curses, screams, and loud shouts spread through the air. Liam wasn't one to hold back either, ramming those that stood in front of him. "Move, dog," he shouted. The lanky noble in front of Liam wanted to retort and slap the young man across his face, but saw the golden earrings hanging from his ear. Obediently, he made way. The middle-aged coachman from before spotted Liam approaching and opened the carriage door. "Well done, sir." Liam shot him a quick nod before he sat inside the car, gazing disappointedly at the petrified nobles from his window. There's no way they're all like this. After all, that human who killed a dragon in my childhood has to be a noble, too. As the carriage started to move, Liam took out the black space rings he stole. "In the binding oath, there's nothing that prevents me from stealing, but I'm sure they'll inspect me, just in case, I won't take anything too valuable or take too much. They still had the aura imprints of their owners, but Liam slowly wiped it out with his mental energy. Starting with the monitor's ring, he inspected it. The space was roughly 15 square meters in size. It contained a simple rank 2 body tempering method, and miscellaneous like clothes and tobacco, but everything else was worthless. I'll swap my ring with his. The 5 extra meters could come in handy, and they probably won't notice. After completing the full transition, Liam wiped away Vamer's aura imprint and entered his ring. Instantly, his eyes widened. There was a full 50 square meters of space inside the ring, filled with various items such as pills, piles of glittering aura stones, even techniques and spells. Liam couldn't hide his greed from appearing on his face. A moment later, he shook his head with regret. It's no use if I try to steal these. They'll eventually find out something is amiss, and I'll probably get executed. What use is wealth if I don't have the power to protect it? I'll keep the box of pills that he kept inside his drawer. There's only 5 inside anyways. Still, his ethereal eyes inside the space ring couldn't help but stare at the items inside. What is that? Liam wondered, his eyes fixed to a stack of parchment papers that looked to be inscribed. Taking it out of Vamer's ring, he examined it. The shabby writings on the parchment looked to be made entirely out of blood, but it still somewhat resembled a technique or method from Vamer's stack of techniques and spells. I should save this. I don't think they'll notice it's gone. I have a feeling it'll come to use later on. Before long, Liam had arrived back at the guild. Chapter 27, Path. As soon as Liam walked down the guild stairs, Ophis greeted him, a dazzling smile on her full lips. Well done, kid. The coachman told me everything. Give your teacher a hug. You deserve this reward. Ophis spread her arms and gestured Liam to a gentle embrace. I'm good, thanks. Do you need me around? I need to head to the armory. Ophis' eye twitched, a dangerous light appearing in her brown irises. Inwardly, she contemplated whether or not to take out her needles. Eventually, she shook her head. Do you have any items from your mission? Liam nodded, taking out 2 space rings and chucking them towards her. Ophis thoroughly inspected the rings. Liam had already wiped away all traces of his aura imprint, multiple times just to be sure, which didn't leave any room for suspicion. Great. I trust you didn't take anything from these, right? Liam sighed and shook his head. I know I'm smart enough not to. Ophis giggled playfully, before gesturing for Liam to carry on his way. Meanwhile, Liam instantly entered the armory. Ava was there as usual, greeting him with a warm smile and a quick wave. Can you show me the tempering methods you have for a rank 3 body? Ava raised a brow, her tone caring and wise. Aren't you still rank 1, though? There's still some time before you break through, young lad. Liam hid the fact that only a few more of his cycles were left. The reason he wanted a rank 3 tempering method so soon was to begin cultivating as soon as he broke through to the 2nd rank. It seemed that, ever since Liam was reborn, he didn't let a single second go to waste. I just want to take a look, he responded blankly. Ava eventually sighed. A moment later, she put her palm on her marble desk, a faint golden glow encompassing her hand. From the inscribed marble surface, a small stone rune appeared. Just use your mental waves on that rune. All the rank 3 tempering methods available will appear in your mental sphere. Liam held back his amazement and quickly did so. Instantly, names and descriptions of multiple rank 3 tempering methods appeared in his mind. Sword fingers. Rank 3 tempering method. Upon completion, it gives the user the ability to turn their fingers into sharp spikes at any time, which could cut through steel and armor like butter. Aura bolsters the lethality of the spikes, adding a poisonous side effect. Merit requirement, 230. Liam's eyes widened when he saw the technique's price. He inspected his own token, which he had brought up to 95 points during the past 2 months through missions and quests, including his first main mission that gave him 40 merits. Damn it. I'm still this far behind? Nonetheless, he wasn't disheartened and continued browsing through the methods. Most of them were around the same range of 150 to 250 merits, and contained a special ability of sorts. Eventually, Liam's eyes got stuck to a specific parchment. Strangely enough, it was the cheapest amongst all of them, but also the most reckless and gruesome. Throes of anguish. Rank 3 tempering method. Uses pain as a way to advance through the rank. Battle wounds, poisoning, burns, etc. Any type of pain transforms into aura that nourishes the body and slowly advances it. Contains regeneration capabilities. The completion results in a rank 3 body that allows you to store pain and use it to gain large amounts of strength momentarily. Price 75 merits. Liam heaved a sigh. I'll take this one, please. Ava scowled, her tone grave as she reprimanded. Do you know what you're doing, lad? Once you begin cultivating a tempering method, you can't leave it midway. Don't do something you might regret. There's a reason why it's so cheap. It's illegal in Ucklad. Liam could guess why no one else wanted the technique despite its low price. A method that had slight amounts of pain, or large depending on the rank, while using it wasn't rare, and most of the time, it was only a side effect. These methods were called unorthodox, due to their fast but oftentimes risky and painful methods of progress, while the opposite was true for orthodox methods. However, a tempering method that only used sheer agony to grow stronger, what kind of deranged maniac would be that reckless to use it? Other than Liam himself, of course. I'll buy it. Ava's mouth opened with a reprimanding expression, but a moment later, closed with a defeated sigh. Cultivators made their own paths. Who was she to judge how others paved their way to strength? In fact, those with grit and strong will succeed more often than not in such a harsh world. She took his token and put it on top of the table. A short moment after, a clean parchment paper formed on her hand, which she passed over to Liam along with his token. The number on his token was now 20, but Liam didn't have any regrets. Wrapping up with his business with the guild, he headed straight to the forest to meet Lloyd. It was night time, and Eve was already asleep. It's about time I ask him about my father. Chapter 28, Powerless. Soon, Liam arrived at the ravine. The surrounding landscape had a thick layer of snow, but the river still gushed forth, since the geysers didn't freeze during winter. Lloyd was sitting bare under the chilling waterfall, wearing only the bottom half of his clothes, his eyes closed in deep meditation. Liam picked up a fist-sized rock, hurling it at his mentor with the form of a professional athlete. Before it could collide with his face, Lloyd's eyes burst forth as he swiftly caught the rock. You little rascal. Although his tone was slightly angry, Lloyd couldn't hide a warm smile from appearing on his face. He stepped off the waterfall and greeted his student with a strong side fist bump. How'd your mission go? Lloyd asked, using a towel to dry off his short hair. Great. Made me realize how much I hate parties and wasting time, Liam responded. Lloyd chuckled, putting on his clothes. I figured as much. You have a loner and unapproachable air around you. Liam shrugged. The student and teacher conversed for a few more minutes, before Liam eventually asked. I wanted to ask, do you know anything about my family or who my father is? I thought you might know since you brought us food when I was a child. Lloyd flinched and raised his brows. Eventually, he sighed and sat down, gesturing to Liam to do the same. After a long silence, he started speaking. He's from the Royce family. Liam remembered that name. Dammer had uttered it with fear in his voice. They're the ruling family of Ucklad. Liam's eyes instantly widened. I only know this because of my time as an assassin, which allowed me to peer into the politics of Ucklad. From what I've heard, one of their high-ranking members can't control his desires. Liam repeatedly cursed, his expression dark and distant. To have a noble as a foe was one thing, to have a ruler as an enemy was another. With this in mind, the numerous hindrances to Liam's path grew thicker and much more difficult. Unadulterated killing intent silently spread throughout the surroundings, as Liam unknowingly spread his mental waves. Lloyd saw the dangerous light in Liam's eyes grow even darker. The amount of bloodlust honestly shocked him, as only magi were able to freely spread their killing intent. Calm down. Lloyd's calm words took Liam out of his stupor. It took a minute for him to suppress his violent thoughts. Do you know his name? Liam asked in a low voice, and Lloyd responded by shaking his head. Listen, Liam, Lloyd put his hand on his student's shoulder, squeezing firmly. Right now, you're too weak to do anything to any of these people, let alone the noble rulers. The only reason you're alive is because they don't care enough to kill you, and that's a good thing. Liam's scowl deepened, but he didn't interrupt. Be patient and always think ahead. Your time will come eventually, to enact whatever morbid justice you have in your head. Liam lowered his head, pondering those words as a long sigh escaped his lips. He felt powerless, but a similar feeling of resolution arose in his heart. He stood up and shifted his gaze to his teacher. Thanks for the words, I'll do my best to follow them. I'll head home now. Lloyd shot an understanding look towards his student, before the pair separated. Liam creaked open his house door, sensing Eve sleeping in the living room couch. She had dark blue circles under her eyes, which Liam could guess was from staying up late waiting for his return. His face turned dark a second later. Both your husband and son are shitty people, Eve. He shook his head, before picking up a fur-made blanket and throwing it over her. A second later, he entered his room, taking out the box of pills he stole from Bammer's drawer. The pills were sealed, and out of the 5 present, 2 pairs were the same. Liam recognized the first as the revitalization pills, except these ones had a much darker brown color. It's probably more potent, he assessed, before shifting his gaze to the remaining 3. The other matching pair were silvery white in color, with a circular shape that wafted a bitter smell. I'll have to ask around in the underground if anyone knows about these. After a while, though, just to be safe. He shifted his attention to the last remaining pill. It was a square-shaped dark purple pill, with blue and yellow patches all over it. The pill smelled like a dangerous poison, and had a strange aura surrounding it. I bet it's valuable, Liam smiled, before putting the pills inside his ring again. A moment later, he took out his psionic rune and began with his usual training. Like so, a few weeks passed. Eventually, it was time for the last and final cycle of Liam's tempering method. Chapter 29, Slaves. Liam chose to do his final cycle inside the guild cave, just cause it was easier to instantly begin his rank 3 tempering method after breaking through. His upper body was bare and a look of determination rested on his face. After all, he needed to go through 10 minutes of boiling heat assaulting his insides. Heaving a sigh, he began with the breathing technique. Steam slowly arose from his figure, condensing to the top of his aura cave. The heat surrounding him increased substantially, as though he was inside a forge. 1 minute passed. Liam wasn't bothered at all. It seemed that with higher mental capabilities, one could ignore pain much more effectively. Added to the fact that his body was also strong. 3 minutes passed. Slowly, Liam's insides were beginning to push out the impurities in his body. He felt it inching away from his organs and skin like a viscous paste. 6 minutes passed. At this point, Liam's skin had transitioned from a light red to a dark purple, his body emitting a boiling hot aura. 10 minutes passed. Liam's purple skin had started to turn black as he started to convulse. His pores pushed out all the accumulated impurities from his body, which bubbled and boiled with heat. Hant. 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 Liam took in deep breaths to revitalize his dead lungs. The panting continued for at least 5 minutes, before strength gradually returned to his body. He felt strong. Powerful. I wonder how it would have been if I fought against Viral in this state. The first thing he did was leave his cave and enter the bathing area for a wash. He dipped himself into the steaming water pool, which resembled more of a jacuzzi, ridding his body of the black goo, slowly revealing his figure. The first thing Liam noticed was how defined his muscles now looked. He could even see the striations that ran across his arms and chest. His frame grew stronger and sturdier, while his skin grew a shade purer, making him seem even paler than he was. In addition, he felt his senses surge in sharpness. Moreover, his skin and flesh was in a constant tense state. He was still lean and slim, but having more muscle mass didn't exponentially increase one's strength when tempering the body. At the same time, Liam felt the aura reserves within his figure increase in capacity substantially. I can fight rank 2 magical beasts now. I don't think Lloyd can underestimate me now, either. I can also express the full strength of my sun and moon arts. A wide grin appeared on Liam's face. In his mind, those mountainous hurdles and walls on his path grew a bit smaller. First things first, I'll need to start the throes of anguish tempering method, then I'll test this body out. Liam finished with his bath and entered right back into the cave, cleaning out the filth from within. Liam had already studied the technique's requirements, which didn't take long. The technique simply required him to scrape off parts of his skin and flesh, while absorbing aura into them in a specific pattern. This had to occur on every single patch of skin on his body, even under the toenails and crown jewels. Due to the regenerative properties, the body would go back to normal in a few minutes after the process was complete, and the flesh would grow back. The skin was the main way the body was going to advance, since wounds accumulating on it would turn into nourishment. He took out his night blades and started undressing. He began with enveloping his mental energy around his body to assess how deep to cut, then used the edge of the blades to rub away the skin, starting with his right foot. Small amounts of blood started to flow and stain the stone floor, revealing a fleshy interior. A sharp stinging sensation grew on his foot, but it wasn't enough to break his focus. Instantly, he started to absorb aura into the bloody patch of skin, manipulating it just the way the technique instructed. Due to his constant training and daily cultivation, his control with the world essence had grown smoother. A thin yellow membrane formed around the wound, causing the blood to stop flowing, and at a closer sight, healing the flesh itself. Liam was slightly amazed at the sight, yet it only lasted a moment before he continued skinning parts of himself. If I go too slow, the aura membrane that formed on my skin will dissipate and bring me back to square one. Only when the membrane covers my entire body will it finally start regenerating. It took him another hour to completely skin both of his feet, including the flesh under the toenails, while constantly forming the aura membrane at the same time. Beads of cold sweat continued to flow down his face and body, falling down and diluting the blood accumulated on the cave floor. His face was paler than usual, but his focus was unwavering. 3 hours passed. If one could see the inside of a certain cave, they'd be incredulous to the lump of skinned flesh that sat cross-legged while a thin yellow membrane almost enveloped his entire figure, making it glow. Liam's nerves were screaming in sheer agony, and even the air around his body caused him pain. Still, he pushed himself to cut the last patch of flesh. A little more. Eventually, the membrane completely converged around his bloodied muscles, causing his body to glow even brighter, while the previously mangled skin was slowly starting to regrow at a rapid rate. By the end, Liam's body turned into its original form, and his skin felt like it was stuffed with a honey-like substance. He let out a long deep breath and fell on the ground, uncaring of the blood and other liquids sticking to his figure. All around him, pieces of his own skin stacked on one another. Finally, he let out another sigh of relief, before popping one of the weaker revitalization pills in his mouth. Finishing another bath, Liam wore his usual clothing, before heading to the mission room to accept a job. His eyes scoured the numerous posters. I can always fight against rank 2 beasts later. Escort missions take too long. Preferably, I'd like to test my new battle prowess against actual cultivators. Liam's eyes fell on a mission that fit his needs perfectly. Slaver's elimination. His irises lit up as he read the job description. Perfect. Chapter 30, Missing. In an area known as the shallow mountain rivers towards the west of Ucklad, a figure with dark green irises silently dashed from tree to tree, a trail of snow following his lithe steps. Like the location's name suggested, shallow frozen rivers ran through the ground, intersecting and joining with one another as they went above hills and the rough terrain. Amazing, I can almost feel each snowflake fall on my skin and melt on it. A smile grew on Liam's face. His awareness and focus towards his surroundings also changed for the better, in addition to his feeling and perception. As he continued to flawlessly traverse through the surroundings, voices entered his ears. A far distance away, past the trees and thick fog, Liam noticed a large caravan, surrounded by men in front and behind it. Wow, I can hear and even see them from that distance, he thought in astonishment, before his expression turned serious. Burly men in various heights and sizes wore stern expressions, black bandana masks covered their faces, and they seemed to be on guard. The caravan they surrounded was the size of a school bus, drawn by regular steeds, and Liam already knew what it contained. Slaves. Human trafficking was no surprise to him in a ruthless world like this. Liam's intentions were in a gray area. On one hand, he could free the slaves and quickly finish the mission, and on the other, he needed to know where these bandits were taking them. He had to let them continue for the moment. There must be a black market of some sort where they want to sell the slaves. I'll trail them to see where they go. Slowly, Liam inched closer to hear what they were talking about. Eventually, he could make out what they were saying. How many times did I tell you not to touch the merchandise, you little sh*t? A muffled and guttural voice reprimanded, his hand curling into a punch as he sent a scrawny man flying. The voice came from a large man with broad shoulders, his black eyes exuding wrath. He shot an understanding look towards someone on his right. The man nodded and swiftly unsheathed his sword from his hip. The scrawny man was already half beaten to death, making him unable to run, his eyes filled with fear as he apologized and begged for his life. The leader went back into the caravan along with the others, and the scrawny man's begging came to an abrupt stop. A streak of warm blood flew horizontally in the air before a thud quietly sounded. Blood flowed from the man's severed head and tainted the snow red, while his body was left to rot and decay. Liam shook his head, but his eyes were cold and aloof as he saw the scene. A moment later, the caravan started to move, and he silently followed along. 8 cultivators, the rest are small fries. They all have rank 1 bodies and cores, but no spells or powerful techniques. I'll take most of them out silently. Eventually, the caravan stopped ahead of the steep side of a mountain. The slope had multiple entrances, big enough for 2 to 3 people to walk through side by side. Still, it was quite a distance away, and it wasn't traversable using the carriage due to the rocky terrain, thus, they left it behind. They pulled out the slaves from the carriages, and Liam got a good look at their condition. Most were young women wearing thick rags. The rest were either young men or kids. All of them were tightly chained up together from their ankles and wrists. From what Liam could see, there were a few old people too, but they had already lost their life inside the carriage due to the cold and lack of care. The bandits dragged the dead slaves and unlocked their chains, before throwing them in the snow to be eaten by the wolves. Those alive among them had dead and empty eyes as they walked with their head lowered, bruises and other injuries visible on their figures. Liam's goal was already achieved. It was time to put them down. He waited for an opportunity. Due to reaching their location, they loosened up their guard and protections. A few went to the trees and bushes for a toilet break, not noticing a young man with a dagger and sword looming right above them. Their relief was short-lived. Liam's night-blade katana reflected the gentle moonlight, before severing through the slavers like a hot knife through butter. One after the other, those who took toilet breaks died with their pants down and bowels emptying, streaks of blood painting the snow. The foul smell emitted from their bodies was masked by the frigid air. Chapter 31, Solar Eclipse. Liam was amazed at his own dexterity and speed. It seems the sea of consciousness directly boosts the body as well. Although it depends on the bodily center of power for strength, its potential is only maximized with the mental sphere. Still, the targets he was focusing on were the weakest among them. His green irises shifted left and right as he looked for more criminals, jumping above the trees and making no noise. Just then, a particular bandit caught his eye. Liam couldn't help but chuckle despite the seriousness of the situation. "Why are you shitting at a time like this?" he wondered, looking at the fat man squatting down with his pants off, making grunting noises as he continued to push out the payload. Liam's blades gathered a fresh coat of red liquid before his dark gaze shifted towards the main carriage. The slaves' chains made a clinking noise as they walked uphill through snow, walking with difficulty and heavily panting. The traffickers were to their left and right, and the strongest among them was right ahead. "Get a move on," the leader among them shouted angrily from the front. The bandits in charge of the slaves yanked their chains forward upon hearing his shout, causing them to yelp in pain. Some had tears streaming down their faces in frustration. Now and again, the leader would look behind him to make sure everyone was moving along smoothly. Fog and thick thorny trees covered part of his vision, but he didn't fail to count the exact number of people, thanks to his men carrying strong lamps that lit up their surroundings. He slowly let his guard down, taking off his mask and storing it inside his space ring. A short black goatee sat on his chin, while the man himself seemed in his mid-30s. His forehead was wrinkled and a stern frown naturally rested on his face. No hair was visible on his head. He looked behind him one last time for another check, but his eyes narrowed as he did so. "Are we two less?" His frown deepened as his eyes swept the people behind him. They could have gone for a bathroom break, but two at the same time. The leader didn't stop the men from moving straight away. "I'm nearly back to base, I don't want boss to get pissed at me for being late," he thought, keeping a vigilant eye on his back, but nothing happened. He slowly shifted his gaze forward, a feeling of restlessness coming over him. Paranoia couldn't help but whisper in his ear. A moment later, he turned his head slowly, and his eyes widened. The leader's clenched hand rose in the air, prompting all the bandits to stop dead in their tracks. The clinking noise stopped as well, and only the sound of wind howling entered everyone's ears. The leader grimaced. "For missing this time." The leader quickly exchanged hand gestures with the two men closest to him, who were both cultivators slightly weaker than him. The distance between those in the front and back wasn't significant, yet the weak fog made it difficult for them to see clearly, since they didn't have any particular mental strength, especially when cloaked in the night. The three men split up, each one covering the left, middle, and right of the area. The leader wielded a normal iron mace, while the others carried silver sabers. Meanwhile, Liam let out a tired sigh in his mind as he perched above the leafless trees. His eyes could see clearly in the dark, but the bandits weren't in the same boat. "If only the leader wasn't such a paranoid person, I would have gotten away with chipping them away," he thought, completely oblivious to his own hypocrisy. "Whatever, I wanted to test out my prowess anyway." His hands flickered, while his blades glowed with a lunar light. An arc of moonlight suddenly shot out from the tree line, causing two of the three cultivators' eyes to widen in surprise and jump backward to dodge. Unfortunately for the third, the arc already shot out and severed his jugular vein before he could react, blood gushing out from the wound and dousing the ground. The remaining slavers cursed loudly, grave frowns forming on their faces. "Watch my back, if we fight together and use the others as bait, we'll survive," the leader whisperingly shouted to the remaining henchmen as he thought of a plan. The weaker traffickers were anxious and fearful, yet didn't hesitate to take out their weapons and fight back. A shrouded figure continually sprung out from the shadows like a ghost, quickly but silently killing the men holding the lamps, stripping away their only source of light. One by one, thudding sounds resounded through the frigid air. The darkness hid the elated expressions on the slaves as they saw their abusers getting murdered, killed in one swift slash. Chapter 32, Sacrifice. The leader's expression grew grimmer as he witnessed the dreadful scene. "Shit," he cursed, before a look of resolve appeared on his face. His mace was useless against a target that fast, and he couldn't hit them if he tried. "I have no choice but to use it." Dropping the mace on the ground, a yellow flame grew on the leader's palm, illuminating the surroundings and revealing the corpses scattered underneath the snow. It grew in intensity and heat, even melting the snowflakes falling from above. A basketball-sized blaze sat on his palm, which seemed unstable and volatile. The leader's expression was of agony, as the fireball seemed to burn his flesh actively, charring his entire arm. The remaining slaver didn't sit idle either. Once he saw what the leader was doing, his fingertips dripped with an azure liquid. He was careful how he used it though, as the water and fire element didn't mix well. The leader's eyes darted left and right as he waited for the dark figure to show himself. "You sure you want to take your time?" the leader yelled, standing close to the line of slaves all chained up together, the blaze in his hand getting closer and closer to one of the female slaves. "You want to see how her pretty face looks burnt?" Liam was still hidden from their line of sight, yet couldn't help but click his tongue in annoyance. "It doesn't really matter if the slaves die, but I'll gain extra merit points if I save them," he thought, his cold irises scanning the two slavers head to toe from behind a tree stump. Still, he didn't show himself instantly. He didn't know much about the intense blaze in the leader's hand, and he didn't fail to see the slaver's hand dripping with water. He knew that if he just patiently waited, the leader's injuries could grow severe and render his arm useless. In reality, it already had. The slaver's leader was using sheer will to hold the fireball together, even using his other arm to support it. "Last chance," the leader yelled with a growing panic, the flame in his hand getting close enough to burn the female slave's hair, its bright orange light illuminating the surroundings. Just then, Liam slowly stepped into the area lit by the flame, catching their attention. His short figure became discernible to the criminals, while his blades were by his sides, pointing towards the ground. "You midget shit. Do you know what you've cost me?" the leader yelled, tufts of his goatee had been completely burned off. "Drop your blades and get on the ground, now." Liam's cold irises were fixed on the bald man's figure as he slowly approached the two. "Stop. Stay where you are," he shouted, but Liam continued to walk casually towards them. Suddenly, Liam's foot blurred as he kicked the snow upward, creating a thin foggy veil that covered his figure entirely. Simultaneously, his blades glowed with a strange but mesmerizing yellow light, shooting a crescent-shaped arc that radiated innate sharpness through the snow. Second form, solar eclipse. The leader's eyes flickered with a dangerous light. Instantly, he hurled the flaming ball towards him. The fire shot out like a bullet, before flaring up violently. Boom! An explosion lit up the entire environment with a blinding light and caused the surrounding snow to melt, trees briefly catching on fire. A heat wave spread out and slightly shook the ground around them. Meanwhile, the leader jumped backwards just in time to dodge the yellow arc. However, his eyes widened once he saw where it was headed. He realized the slash wasn't meant for him, but for the remaining slaver behind him. The blinding light from the explosion worked in Liam's favor, as the slaver squinted his eyes and opened them, only to see a thin, rapidly approaching light. Azure and foamy water burst forth from his fingertips in an attempt to block it from severing his head, but it was too slow. The arc split his nose in two, and continued to flow through the air before eventually dissipating. With one arm charred black and the other injured, the leader didn't have any strength in his body to carry his iron mace, his eyes frantically looking around the explosion radius to see if he hit his target. "Where is he? Where is he?" he repeated inwardly, his heart racing. A moment later, his chest sank as he saw the dark figure, blades in hand, approach him from the corner of his eye. Liam's clothes had burn marks all over them, and there were still wisps of fire that continued to flicker on his body. A dark, cold pressure surrounded him. The infernal body had come in clutch for him once again. Due to his above-average heat resistance, the fire didn't completely burn his skin black, but nonetheless, caused a few more burn marks to appear on his body. At the same time, he felt those burn marks slowly turn into nourishment and strengthen his being. Also, due to his quick thinking and newfound dexterity, he was able to rush his way behind a tree stump before the explosion engulfed him. Split-second decisions felt longer to him now that his mental sphere had advanced quite a bit. He dashed and brought his wakizashi to the bald man's neck, severing it under the shocked gaze of the slaves. Liam spotted a space ring on the leader's hand, which he didn't hesitate to steal. He shifted his attention to the slaves. "I have to be quick." That explosion definitely alerted the people inside the mountain. His eyes fell on the young woman in the front, just a few years older than himself. A large gash on her chest bled continuously, her eyes devoid of any life, while her wrists and ankles were still chained to another slave. He knew straight away. It was his fault she died. During the fight, when he aimed the arc towards the remaining slaver, it had continued on and slashed her as well. Liam shook his head solemnly, but that's all the pity he could spare. I did what had to be done, I didn't mean for her death, yet my own survival was at stake. You cannot gain without sacrifice. Chapter 33, Disciple. Liam broke the chains holding the slaves captive using his sword, then led them towards the carriage the slavers left behind. A large brown-maned steed was still well and able to pull them. You're free now. There's a village a few clicks that way. Liam gestured towards the east while addressing the slaves inside the caravan. Some looked at him with contempt and anger for killing an innocent girl, while the others were just happy they survived. They'll give you food and water for work, now move along. A young man decided to sit in the coachman's seat and steer the carriage, prompting Liam to walk back home. His back displayed a slight loneliness, as his figure disappeared into the thick fog. A few minutes earlier. Boom! A figure instantly emerged from the mountain slope, his pale face staring in the direction of the explosion. He shot out like a bullet towards it, reaching it after a few minutes and finding nothing but dead corpses warming the snow. He didn't fail to notice the leader's hand lacking the space ring he gave him. Stupid rats, unable to complete something as trivial as this. They deserve to die, he uttered under his breath, stepping over their dead bodies and trampling them. The figure's face was seemingly tired, his breath deep and raspy while a frown rested on his face. After investigating the scene, he spotted carriage tracks towards his left, in addition to footsteps to the right. Instantly, his expression softened into one of understanding. The slaves can wait. I want to know who killed my goons. With that, his legs began to sprint towards the footprints. Liam quickly wiped out the aura imprint from the leader's space ring, before inspecting it. The space was stacked with different kinds of parchment papers, confusing Liam as to what their purpose was. Besides that, there were a few aura stones and some gold. One specific paper caught his attention. Inspecting it, Liam's eyes widened. Isn't this the same parchment as the one from Bammer's ring? He took out both from his ring and put them side by side. Both writings on the leather paper were different from any kind of text he had been familiar with. It had a series of red diagrams beside each other, each one made from blood. It resembles a spell. The only thing he could read was a small text at the top, stating its name in the Aquarian language. Fireblaze Prototype. Rank 1. Prototype? Wah. Suddenly, thick bloodlust spread from behind him, with noises of quick steps entering his ears. Clang! A blood-red odachi, radiating sharpness and lethality, smashed against Liam's night blades, sending him flying the distance and rolling on the snow. Had he not shifted himself in time, the blade would have pierced right through his spine. Liam grunted, before pushing himself off the ground and looking for his attacker. The man he saw didn't match his image for just how much strength was in the previous strike. His face was wrinkled and pale as a ghost, his brown eyes drooped while his body was skinnier than a twig. He took raspy breaths and seemed to be in discomfort, even coughing now and again. He seemed to be in his 50s, with graying sideburns and a sharp beard on his chin. With an ominous tone and interest gleaming in his eyes, he grinned, such reflexes. It's no wonder you killed those weaklings. He took time to breathe between sentences while scanning Liam's body head to toe. Milk has just dried on your lips, and you're already this devilish. I wonder what kind of threat you'll become when you grow older. Liam grimaced inwardly at the man's condescending tone, but kept a calm face. There's a reason he's this cocky, he doesn't even consider me as a threat. His mind raced, the air around him turning dark. I still have 2 revitalization pills with me. If I get too injured, I can use it and continue to fight. There's still that unknown pill, but I can't use it unless my life is in danger. The pale old man started to chuckle at the sight, his breath wheezing out of control before he forced himself to calm down. A cornered mouse will bite the Mauser, he stated with a wet cough, taking out a jade from his ring and throwing it towards Liam. Since you've made me laugh, I'll let you live, kiddo. First give me back the space ring you stole. Liam had no choice but to comply, catching the jade and carefully throwing the ring to the man. In the off chance that you're curious about those spells, come back here when you're a magus. The name's Revel. A sense of relief formed in Liam's heart, but he didn't dare let his guard down, limiting himself to say one word. Why? The man shifted his solemn gaze towards the night sky, his eyes brimming with strange emotion, then looked back at Liam. I could use a disciple. Revel turned around and left at that point, his figure merging with the frosty mist before disappearing. Liam didn't spare a second and started to run the opposite direction. Damn it. I'm still weak. He sped up before finally reaching Uklad's borders, reaching his house, and making his way inside his room through the back window. He heaved a deep breath as he sat down and inspected his weapons. The barely used night blades had cracks all over its surface, causing Liam to grimace. Chapter 34, Forge. Liam's nickname in the peasantry and underground was the Young Butcher. He was named this because of all the magical beasts he would bring to various establishments, such as restaurants, pill stores, and even forge masters. As it turned out, forging had its own entire branch of knowledge, similar to cultivation and alchemy. They used their own techniques and methods of forgery, but mastery of such a rigorous art depended only on hard work and sheer persistence. Still, the weapons made by the underground forge masters weren't as good as store-bought inscribed weapons, which is why Liam opted for the latter. Liam had made more than a few connections with the rich businessmen underground, and he headed there as soon as the sun rose. However, before he left, he made sure to reassure Eve of his well-being and update her on his achievements. Liam was headed to a particular pill shop, donning a hood over his usual clothing. The store owner was one he was on the best terms with. He was a lanky, rosy-skinned old man by the name of Rudolph, with a vibrant beard that covered his chin, an air of experience and tempered knowledge surrounding him. Liam entered his small store. A pair of female servants wearing dark blue outfits stood to the sides of the entrance. Pills were sealed and stacked on wooden shelves covering the walls of the store, and a pharmaceutical smell covered the air. Liam gazed at the various kinds of medicine being displayed, differing in size and color. Under the displays were a metal plate describing them along with their rank. Pills that increased the user's speed, pills that increased strength, there were tablets virtually of any kind. However, most of the pills there were weak and lasted for mere moments, as stated by their rank. This was to be expected, since Rudolph's shop wasn't too developed compared to other stores. This was one of the reasons Liam had chosen to do business with him, since he could sell him rank 1 magical beasts for a decent price. Rudolph spotted the young man entering his store and instantly beamed. He waved his hand, and the servants closed the store off and entered the back rooms. Young Butcher. I reckon you've gotten another load of magical beasts you want to sell? The shopkeeper questioned joyously. Liam nodded. It depends. I've got a few favors to ask. Rudolph raised his brows. Well, by all means. If it's in my power, I'll try to fulfill your request. Liam took out 2 pills from his space ring, 1 silver and 1 purple. Do you know what these are for? Rudolph accepted the pills and inspected them for a moment, before nodding his head. This one here can restore mental energy to full capacity when used. He pointed at the silver pill, before moving to the purple pill. His eyes widened as he inspected it thoroughly. If this is what I think it is, it's worth more than 750 aura stones, Rudolph said with shock in his tone. 750 aura stones were no small amount. It could even fund an entire village for a full 5 years. It's a bone-strengthening pill. It can help you reach the peak of a stage body-wise, as long as it's below the 3rd and 4th rank, Rudolph revealed. Not only that, but the strengthening remains permanent. I'd love to buy this from you. I'll even add 200 stones extra. Liam was entirely satisfied. I'll instantly use those pills and do a lengthy session with the psionic rune. The bone-strengthening pill can wait after I reach the upper stage of rank 2. He instantly denied Rudolph's offer before asking him for instructions on how to use it. The shop owner obviously didn't explain the process for free, but Liam didn't mind. After the transactions were over, Liam took out a few rank 1 magical beast corpses for Rudolph to freely use. One more thing. Do you know any knowledgeable forge masters in the underground? I need to have my blades fixed. Rudolph turned pensive, but it looked as though someone had come into mind. Well, yes, but you might find his personality a bit difficult. He may or may not like you, and he only offers his services to people he likes. Liam took his offer and was given a green token with Rudolph's shop insignia, as well as directions. Shortly after those words, he arrived at said place. It was a large square hut, a chimney bellowing out smog from above. The smell of coal and steel warmed the surrounding air. Loud clang and bang noises resonated from within it. Forge masters usually worked in such a place, but with other facilities for customers. This location, on the other hand, worked only for the blacksmith himself, and didn't even have a banner or logo. Liam took a step inside and assessed his surroundings, when a deep and heavy voice shouted, "Hold up!" A tall and stout man walked out of a metal door, extreme heat wafting from that room, his arms and face dark and black, while his face looked naturally stern. He wore black clothing with no sleeves, exposing his broad shoulders, and a plain apron that covered his chest and extended past his abdomen to his knees. His eyes were a deep brown, and his spiked hair tinted dark red with few strands of white. A thick, manly beard covered his jaw. The man towered over Liam with his giant frame, a menacing air surrounding him. You lost? Chapter 35, Forge Master. Liam shook his head and took out the green token, handing it to the blacksmith. The man grunted once he saw the token, and an irked expression formed on his face as he took it and crushed it with his bare hands. I told that scrawny twig not to send me anyone unless they're interesting enough to make weapons for, and he sent me a child? Liam sighed. He didn't say much, but took out his blades and stretched them forward. I need new weapons, my current ones are damaged and are no longer usable. Can you make me new ones or not? The red-haired man was about to kick the kid out from his shop, before he saw the state his blades were in. At the same time, he realized how the young man standing before him didn't even budge when he shouted but remained calm, and despite the burning air around them, he didn't sweat. His blades are made from an obsidian alloy, but it's poorly made. Is that a coat of dried blood on it? Wait, the ring around his hand, this kid is already a cultivator? The blacksmith pursed his lips for a moment, staring at Liam in silence. Without warning, he grabbed his knight blades and shattered them on the ground. Liam scowled, his frown deepening with each second that passed. Noticing his glare, the blacksmith scoffed proudly. Never use store-bought weapons. The things those phonies make are a disgrace to us forge masters. I'll make you a new pair. What's your name, kid? Liam paused for a moment, before answering. Liam. The red-haired man pursed his lips again. Rogan. With that brief and strange introduction, the blacksmith, known as Rogan, turned around and entered back into the forge. Liam followed closely behind, scouring the space, which was the size of 2 living rooms. Besides the boiling heat, which his body thankfully was used to, there were various tools and metals laying around chaotically. On the left wall, the corpses of various magical beasts could be seen, ranging from rank 1 to rank 2, a price tag beneath it. The beasts themselves were in a large see-through container which seemed to contain some sort of preservation capability. The area was illuminated by a white light hanging from above. In the middle of the space, a giant black anvil sat, covered with dents and marks that displayed its heavy usage. Towards the right, materials ranging from greasing oil to various weapon handles sat in cupboards and tables. Hammers and other tools were hung on the walls, and in front was a cauldron of red-hot magma, the cause of heat in the room. Liam approached a rank 2 beast, the albino python, and inspected it. It was 3 meters long and had glimmering white scales. Its reptilian eyes were forcibly opened, revealing a yellow iris. Liam had seen them before, but he hadn't had the opportunity to fight against one. With my current strength, it's not a stretch to say I can fight against rank 3 beasts. Humans had a great advantage over magical beasts for one reason only. Their sea of consciousness and powerful intelligence. Liam's progress with his mental sphere had been steadily increasing, the rune didn't hurt his head as much as before, and he felt really close to a breakthrough. Alright, let's discuss payment. I specialize in making weapons from magical beast corpses, so you can choose which blades you want from that bunch. Keep in mind, whichever one you choose, your blades will have the innate ability of that beast, at least, a copy of it. Liam raised his brows, remaining silent. His tone was incredulous as he spoke. Innate ability? You can do that? Rogan gave a firm nod. It's my forging technique. Now, quickly choose. I don't have all day. Liam paused for a moment, before speaking with a respectful tone. Please teach me. The benefits of such a skill were endless. Liam knew that he couldn't count on store-bought weapons forever. It didn't matter how expensive or well-made they looked, as long as he didn't make it with his own two hands, he wouldn't trust its quality. Not to mention, Liam dealt with magical beasts on a daily basis. Rogan arched his brows, scoffing. If every 10-year-old wanted to learn how to forge, don't you think this art would be redundant? Not to mention, the technique I use is unorthodox and incomplete. It'll cause you immense pain each time you use it, but also requires you to have a powerful body and sturdy mental sphere. That's it? Liam asked, confused. The part about immense pain felt incredibly casual to him. How strong of a body and mental sphere? Rogan himself was a bit confused. Although he himself had a high tolerance for pain, it didn't occur to him that Liam might have the same. A rank 2 body, and strong mental energy you can manipulate precisely. A short silence ensued. Then teach me. Rogan had a dumbfounded look on his face, but slowly realized what Liam was implying. You're all ready. Liam nodded, prompting a pensive look on Rogan's face. A strong pressure started to emanate from Rogan's figure, mental waves that wrapped around Liam, which the latter quickly pushed back using his own. Although his mental waves were significantly weaker, Rogan's expression indicated surprise and realization. He continued to increase the wave's intensity, before signs of pain appeared on Liam's face. Eventually, the blacksmith sighed and retracted his pressure. Choose what magical beast corpse you want me to make. Is that a yes? Rogan scoffed proudly. You'll have to know how it works first. If you do decide to learn it, I won't allow you to slack off. I don't care if you start crying either. A slight smile appeared on Liam's face. He was gonna get along with his new mentor. Chapter 36, Primordial Forging. Liam instantly went back to the magical beast corpses, pensive as he decided what to pick. It was obvious he was gonna go for a rank 2, since he could easily afford it. Albino python, lake beaver, earth boar. The first being of the wind element, the second of water, and third of earth. Musing over it for a few moments, Liam eventually decided on the first option. Rogan nodded and grabbed the snake, placing it on the metal anvil and taking out a sharp cutting knife from his space ring. It was a mere 4-inch blade, yet it was covered with inscriptions that bolstered its sharpness to a terrifying length. The knife cut through the python like butter. A katana and wakizashi. 23 inches for the former and 11 inches for the latter. Rogan uttered words continuously under his breath while skinning the snake with ease. He separated the fangs, bones, flesh and core immaculately. The skill and grace he did it with didn't match his muscular physique, and his experienced eyes seemed to be completely absorbed in his work. The same went for Liam, who was captured by the art of forgery, paying the utmost attention to Rogan's handiwork. After completing the separation and organizing all the components, Rogan took a black hammer off the wall. The hammer was covered with similar inscriptions, radiating strength, and looked similar to Mjolnir. Liam's interest was piqued. Rogan began with the metallic scales, putting them all in a straight line and rubbing dark oil grease over them, before hitting it with the hammer. Loud bangs resonated through the air. However, instead of becoming uneven and ruined, the scales wielded together to create a long, thin, and perfectly flat piece of metal. How does that even work? Liam wondered briefly, before paying attention. After doing so, he took the shiny metal piece and dipped it into the magma cauldron, causing it to glow red with heat. He continued hammering it until it began to take the form of a sword. He repeated the process 16 times, until the sword resembled a full-fledged katana. He shaved away the excess metal from the piece and purified it, then grabbed the snake flesh, bones and fangs, and continuously mixed them together with the metal piece until it blended inside. At the same time, he used the snakeskin to create a handle, wrapping it around a cloth until it took a solid form. It took 2 hours until he finished doing the same with the dagger, but since Liam was just as absorbed as Rogan, he didn't notice. By the end, all the materials were expended except the snake core, which he took out to complete the final step. Rogan closed his eyes as he held the core, and the azure-colored aura inside of it oozed out like gas and entered through his forehead. Don't tell me, he's absorbing that into his mental sphere? Following this, Rogan went through a series of pained expressions. His eyes were closed all throughout, but it looked as though he was going through a mental clash. Gradually, color returned to Rogan's pale face, allowing him to grab the blades and clench them tightly. The aura that he had absorbed through his mental sphere left his head and burst forth through his mental waves. It wrapped around the blades, parts of it entering it and causing it to faintly glow, while other parts were lost due to a lack of control. The aura in his arms left his body and entered the blades like tendrils, briefly enveloping them before disappearing inside of it. Only after he was done, did he stretch the weapons forward. Come, hold them. Rogan's tone was quieter than before, but his eyes were still full of life. Liam happily obliged, grabbing the blades and waving them around. The end products looked extremely clean. The katana and wakizashi both had a white stripe along the edges. The aesthetics of the handle and blade formed an expensive and posh appearance. The blades felt perfect in his grip. Mind telling me about the forging method now? Rogan heaved a long, tired sigh. As I've said, it's an unorthodox method of forgery by the name of primordial forging. In essence, it consists of taking over a magical beast's will and making it your own. Once that's done, I can imbue that will onto a blade. This technique has multiple issues with it, however. The first being the short lifespan of the creations made from it. Secondly, subjugating a magical beast's will is a lot more difficult than it seems. You quite literally have to fight with it in your head, which can cause weakness to the mental sphere walls. I won't lie, it's covered with flaws. The only reason I use it today is because it's been passed down from my forgery masters, who spent their entire lives attempting to perfect this art. I barely fixed a few mistakes myself during my decades of practicing it, but it's still lacking. Liam took a second to process everything, glancing at the pristine blades in his hand. There has to be a silver lining, right? Rogan scoffed proudly. Although it has its problems, it's capable of surpassing every other forging method in terms of raw power and potential. Magical beasts are limitless, after all. Liam smiled. When can I start? Rogan smirked in approval. First, memorize the forging method, he said, taking out an old, worn-down parchment from his ring, then we can begin with the basics. Chapter 37, Warning. Winter was slowly coming to an end, but not before the season increased its intensity by multiple folds. The first thing Liam did when finishing with his underground business was head towards the forest. His blades practically begged to be used. Night had cloaked the sky, flickering with bright stars barely visible through the cold mist. Liam spread out his senses throughout the region. Growls, screeches, and hisses loudened in his ears, and he could sense what creatures those sounds belonged to. The further parts of the ucklad forest contained rougher and much more demanding terrain. It housed dungeons, glades, and caves, which no doubt housed a plethora of powerful magical beasts. Liam took the liberty of accepting a magical beast extermination mission while he was at it, adding to his stingy with-time personality. He needed to eliminate a pack of rank 2 blizzard hounds located at the foot of a snowy tor. He avoided unnecessary fights with weaker beasts until he arrived there, instantly sensing the dozen-some wolves under a rough collection of giant boulders. The blizzard hounds had bright white fur, which glowed as they buried themselves under the snow. Underneath the white tufts was tough, purple skin. They were roughly 2 meters in length, with a tall stature. Somehow, their low growls were audible through the howling wind. They have powerful noses, so I'll have to be quick. Magical beasts oftentimes lived in habitats that supported their innate abilities. In this case, the snow provided a nourishing effect to strengthen their bodies. Further up, he could see the dark entrance of an alcove, multiple hounds blocking its entrance, sleeping around it. Liam's eyes fell on that entrance and slightly narrowed. I sense danger from that cave. Though, it shouldn't be anything too serious. Maybe a peak rank 2 blizzard hound as the alpha. Rank 3s can't be found in this location either. Without delaying another second, Liam silently approached the wolf pack. There were few trees surrounding the mountain foot to traverse through, leaving him with just a direct confrontation. He tightened the grip on his blades and dashed towards the closest sleeping hound, whose snout twitched with a strange smell. As the wolf slowly opened its eyes, a shadowy blade met its neck, tainting its white fur crimson and spurting gobs of red. The smell of blood quickly alerted the other hounds, their growling growing louder as they sniffed the air. Meanwhile, a smile grew on Liam's face, uncaring of the thunderous barks and howls shot his way. It cut through it so easily. There's no doubt about it. I need to learn this forging method. His eyes turned cold as he scoured the beasts. The wolves instantly swarmed him, spreading around and giving him little space. However, they didn't get very close. They couldn't. Each time they tried to, a streak of blood flew in the air, and a wolf head quietly thudded on the snow. From 13, only 6 remained. The massacre continued one-sidedly, with Liam slowly pushing through towards the cave. Suddenly, the wolves changed tactics. They jumped back and kept their distance, their claws lengthening to razor-sharp icicles. Swiping their claws, dozens of sharp, finger-sized chunks of ice shot at his figure. Liam evaded most of those attacks, yet purposely allowed some to hit his non-vital spots. Streams of blood warmed his body and stained his clothes, but contradictingly nourished it. I nearly forgot about my tempering method. I'll have to get creative with how I advance now. Liam strengthened his arms with small amounts of aura, just enough for him to kill the remaining hounds. One last thud resounded, before Liam began extracting the beast's cores. It's a shame I don't have enough space in my ring. Rank 2 beasts sell quite well. Liam shifted his gaze towards the unguarded alcove. Sensing the danger, he sat cross-legged and instantly began to refill the expended aura, preparing for the worst. When he finished, he slowly entered through the hole. Right as he did, sounds of wet chewing entered his ears, in addition to a stronger, more demanding growl. The floor was dyed crimson with dried blood and viscera, littered with half-eaten blizzard hound corpses. Further up, a giant lump of black fur had his back towards him, yet radiated immense danger, enough to make Liam's hair rise. However, there was no trace of fear in Liam's eyes, just his mind and body's natural reaction to a powerful threat. Liam's grip on his blades tightened as the black lump turned around and arose, revealing a vicious, 3-meter wolf that could make an adult man cry with one look. Its snout and face had been marred, the healed scars indicating the beast had gone through a fierce clash time ago, resulting in one of its eyes being blinded. Most probably the previous alpha of the pack. As it spotted the tiny human invading its territory, it let out another deep growl, vibrating throughout the cave, even applying pressure on Liam's mental sphere and causing him to scowl. Rank 3. Liam instinctively knew the wolf was rank 3. Magical beasts in this rank could apply physical and mental pressure, even if they weren't species that focused on that aspect. Noticing the gray markings under the wolf's eyes, Liam instantly thought of a species name from Lloyd's bestiary. Shadow lycos of the darkness element. Not only is this kind of beast rare like most darkness beasts, they're also strong and highly dangerous. Liam could freely leave. Well, not so freely, but an escape was almost certainly possible if he tried. The lycos growled again. A warning, Liam assumed. Amazingly, even the rank 3 beast wanted him gone. Not only had Liam invaded its territory, he had also interrupted its meal. Under any other circumstance, it would have already pounced without warning. Yet it was injured, and intelligent enough to avoid a meaningless fight. Liam clenched his blades, forcing out a deep breath, before smirking. Let's test our limits, shall we? Chapter 38, Clash. Seeing that the invading human had no intentions of leaving, the wolf's growl grew louder, before turning into a deafening roar. It didn't bark, though. Only weaker lower-ranked species did so, which only made the Lycos look more terrifying. A heavy pressure weighed against Liam's mind, causing him to scowl deeply, but it wasn't anything he couldn't handle. Simultaneously, the Lyco's black fur turned ethereal, oozing out similar-colored smoke that covered its body. I've never fought against a darkness beast before, but from what I've read about them, I can't let that smoke touch me. A deep gurgling sounded from the beast's chest, paired with an ethereal black substance, the center of which appeared liquid, shooting out from its throat, rapidly beaming for Liam's figure. Liam's hands flickered. He swung his blades as one, aiming for the dark vapor and Lyco simultaneously. His wakizashi glowed, and an arc of moonlight brightened the cave, colliding with the smoke. The smoke parted ways, but not before the liquid center made the arc of light completely redundant. The smoke dissipated into air, while the liquid center splashed against the wall behind him. This was the darkness element, extremely versatile and equally dangerous, able to mend and change like a shadow depending on how it was used. The shadow Lycos had multiple innate abilities that grew stronger with each rank, with natural manipulation capabilities growing stronger too. Suddenly, the Lyco's body churned. It gurgled again, before shooting another blob from its throat, faster and larger, dripping with liquid darkness. Liam didn't dodge the smoke like normal since it was so fast, but that wasn't his intention. His katana flickered with a gentle solar glow, before a lengthy, orange-colored arc shot out from it, clashing with the liquid cloud of darkness. Simultaneously, he ducked low as he dashed forth, closing the distance between the wolf and himself using the bright flash of the first form, using the beast's blinded eye to his advantage. The wolf was caught off guard for a moment as it attempted to block Liam's blade with its sharp canine teeth. A moment was all Liam needed. Liam asserted aura into his newly forged blades, causing wind to gather around it and were on their edges radiating sharpness. An arc of solar light flew in the dark and headed straight for the Lyco's neck, before the blades themselves followed shortly after. Liam grit his teeth and used all the strength, and aura in his body, to force his blades through its black skin. The katana penetrated through the fur of the Lycos first, before the wakizashi did the same. The wind caused a clean cut to appear on its body, even before the blades made contact. At the same time, the Lycos grabbed a hold of Liam's thigh, clenching its giant maws on it. Its long and sharp canine teeth, coated with darkness, brutally dug through his flesh, sending pangs of pain throughout his body. Die already! Liam swung his blades as hard and viciously as he could, using every bit of adrenaline in his veins to deepen the wounds on the Lyco's stubborn skin. Thankfully, the wolf couldn't use its darkness element, since Liam struck exactly in its midsection. More precisely, its core. The two were at a stalemate, and whoever could cause the most grievous wounds would win. Liam's training hadn't been for absolutely nothing. His pain tolerance over the past year had gone up to near masochistic amounts. With a loud shout, he forced his katana through the top of the wolf's head, its tip exiting through the bottom. His wakizashi on the other hand pierced it from bottom to top. The shadow Lycos continued to yank and pull away the flesh from Liam's thigh, mangling chunks of his flesh, until gradually, it lost the strength to do so. A puddle of dark red liquid formed below it, while it took deep strained breaths in. The light faded from its remaining eye, its body went limp, but its jaw was stuck to Liam's thigh as it eventually died. Liam's sword and dagger clinked as it fell to the ground, allowing him to pry the wolf's jaw away from his bloodied and bruised leg. As he did so, warm blood continued to ooze from his leg, which had a few of the Lyco's teeth stuck to it. He fell to the ground and panted heavily, allowing himself a short respite. Shit, I have a headache. Liam hesitated whether or not to use his strong revitalization pills, but his wounds already began to heal, becoming nourishment. Choosing not to, he sat cross-legged and began to cultivate, circulating aura within his wounds to heal them quicker. Damn dog bit me to the bone. This works, though. I'm already getting close to completing the lower stage. After feeling slightly better, he perked back up and started to skin the beast. After it died, the wolf was flaccid, but still almost powerful enough to resist the strength of his blades. Almost. The most accurate parable explaining the difference in bodily strength could be, the first rank being wood, the second, stone, and the third, steel. They were capable of damaging each other, but nonetheless, had major advantages. The shadow lycos is a rare species of magical beast, and no doubt each part would fetch a hefty price. After skinning the wolf, successfully taking out the parts, he stored them inside the ring. He left the core for last, and after extracting it from the body, saw that it was pitch black in color. Would Rogan make me a pair of blades from this? Smiling, he made space in his ring before quickly shoving the 3-meter beast inside the ring. With that, he left the den once and for all. Chapter 39, Ranks. Weeks passed. At last, winter was finally over, and spring took its place, causing the previously dead trees to burst with various colors. When Liam brought back a rank 3 magical beast corpse to Rogan's forgery, the blacksmith was at a loss for words. Even more so when Liam explained how he killed it. Liam used that opportunity to ask the blacksmith for a new pair of blades, made from the shadow lycos no less. Rogan sighed, then chuckled, then laughed. Ha ha ha. Shameless rascal, trying to take advantage any time you can. Give them to me, I'll preserve them for you. However, weapons made from rank 3 beasts are difficult to make, even for me. Their wills get substantially stronger with each rank, and I'll have to use special pills to strengthen my mental sphere. Pills I trust my honorable disciple will provide. Don't worry though, you won't have to pay for the blades. Also, I'm not making anything new until you dull those blades you're using now, and maybe a few more simpler blades before that. Every weapon deserves to have a master worthy of wielding it. Never forget that. Liam smiled in acknowledgement before leaving the forgery. The coming weeks, his schedule continued like normal, with the addition of learning the basics of forging. They were simple instructions which he didn't have trouble learning. Rogan simply wanted to familiarize him with how to work with the materials. Liam finally became 11 years old, cueing the same tradition of pumpkin pie his mother cooked him. There wasn't any party, though. The two loners ate and chatted between themselves. Son, about your work. You don't plan on stopping, do you? Eve said with a weakened tone. Not currently, why? Liam questioned, his mouth filled with food. I'm just worried. What if, one day, you don't return? I don't want to lose you, Eve muttered, her brows furrowed. Liam sighed, don't worry so much. I'm strong now, and I'm getting stronger. Eventually, I'll get you out of this peasantry and settled somewhere much nicer. Eve let out a weak sigh. Her son's confident tone assured her, but clearly not enough. On the other hand, he completed a few more main missions, steadily accumulating his merit points. He didn't spend them on anything, though, saving them for the higher-ranked techniques. Meanwhile, his body had advanced past the lower stage and entered the middle stage. His progress was incredibly fast, thanks to his reckless and maniacal way of training, which basically consisted of getting bit, poisoned and slashed by magical beasts and humans alike. Liam realized the forging method's weakness, as the blades Rogan had made already began to show signs of decline after a week, granted, through heavy usage. In the first place, it wasn't supposed to last that long. But the blacksmith had used various methods to prolong its durability. At the same time, something peculiar took place. It was midnight when he was training with the psionic rune in his room, when suddenly, the walls of his mental sphere echoed with tremors. Within, the space rumbled, and the waves of mental energy violently smashed against the translucent barrier. Liam felt like his thoughts were swimming through a viscous, burning liquid, as contradictory as that might sound. By the time the event stopped, a mental click resounded in his head, and Liam felt like a fog had been lifted from his mind. Everything felt so clear. His perception, his senses, his thoughts. He could feel each hair on his body swaying against the lightest of wind. He could sense all his surroundings with unadulterated clarity despite not using any mental energy, and all kinds of sounds entered his ears. Liam didn't realize his room was so detailed. His wooden drawers were covered in faint little markings, his walls were sallow and not a plain cream color like he thought, and the back window was covered with unnoticeable old stains. Liam reeled in his amazement and laughed. "I'm finally a magus." He entered his mental sphere, looking for any differences. For one, the sea below him was a shade darker and much more vast than before. Moreover, the translucent barrier had grown almost twice as thick. He decided to stretch out his mental muscle, another word for spreading his senses throughout his surroundings. His mental waves left his room, spreading through his neighborhood, then district, before faintly enveloping the entire peasantry. A day passed. "You rascal. Do you take me for a fool?" Lloyd frowned, causing Liam to let out an annoyed sigh. The pair were in the forest as Liam had a scheduled duel with his teacher, where he chose to reveal his advancement. It takes almost 2.5 years for someone to become a rank 1 magus. You're telling me you've done it and barely won? Prove it. Liam scoffed, focusing all his pressure towards Lloyd's figure. The night prior, he had practiced his control over his mental waves, and the pressure it released was quite amazing. Lloyd's face expressed realization and shock, with a hint of pain prompting Liam to reel in his pressure. He's still much stronger than me. Though, with the age difference between us, I wonder at what age I'll be stronger. Wow, was all Lloyd could say. He took a moment to sit on the grass, probably since his knees couldn't hold him up anymore, gesturing for Liam to do the same. "Since I haven't explained the ranks in detail, I suppose now is a good time to start," Lloyd muttered, still somewhat shocked from that reveal. There are 9 total ranks in the cultivation path. The first 3 are called mortal ranks. They aren't that difficult to advance in, and the power gap between them isn't too big either, since a rank 2 body can still damage a rank 3 body. This changes within the zenith ranks, which range from 4 to 6. The difference of power is vastly different compared to the first 3, since they could kill mortal cultivators with a thought. Most noble patriarchs or matriarchs are around this level. Liam's eyes brimmed with awe and emotion. 7 to 9 are called celestial ranks. Little is known about them, but they're otherworldly beings, capable of wiping out entire civilizations with a simple hand gesture. Liam lowered his head to hide the manic expression on his face. The word celestial sounded just so enticing. Chapter 40, Stars. Liam often used the comfort of stargazing in his first life to cope with reality. The constellations seemed to bring peace to his heart for some strange reason. The vastness of the universe reminded him of his insignificant existence, and even more so his insignificant difficulties. The word celestial seemed to stir up memories Liam had long forgotten, and his eyes couldn't hide those solemn emotions. In a way, he had an unrequited relationship with the heavenly bodies. But now, he felt as though he could touch them. He shifted his gaze towards the sky. It was still daytime, and there were practically no stars in the azure space. Yet that didn't deter Liam from staring right at them, knowing they stared back. "I will touch the stars, or die trying." Lloyd kept his silence for Liam to process what he heard. After a while, he spoke with a grave tone. "Do you know what this means?" His teacher's firm words took Liam out of his stupor. The seriousness of his tone made Liam just as stern. It took barely a moment for Liam to think of an answer. He inwardly cursed. "Will the nobles stop me from progressing?" Lloyd gave him a shrug, prompting Liam to sigh. "They most probably will, but might not. Since you're from House Royce, there's a chance they might see your talents and bring you into their family as a soldier or something a bit higher ranked. Although, there's probably a slim chance of being recognized as a main family member." Liam clicked his tongue. "What if I keep my awakening hidden? When it's a little less impressive, I can reveal it to them." Lloyd solemnly shook his head. "Where would you get your succeeding techniques then? More importantly, the second psionic rune? Are you content with sitting around and wasting your time?" Liam grimaced. His face turned pensive as he thought about what to do. He leaned towards revealing his awakening straight away. In the first place, he didn't mind taking a risk if it meant he could get stronger faster. His usage of unorthodox methods were a perfect example of that. But he had to tread lightly. It could just as easily backfire and blow up in his face. The nobles could stunt his growth if they see him as a threat. I'll have to take a leap of faith. I'll just have to impress them enough to take me in, Liam finally spoke. But not now. I'll wait at least 2 weeks and spend as much as I can on mental energy restoration pills. That way I'll have an alibi of sorts. Moreover, he could spend that time focusing on forging as well as completing missions, not to mention progress his body even further. Lloyd nodded in response, a bit taken aback by his student's cunning. You're growing too fast for your own good, kid. Liam chuckled. I do have a great teacher. Though he is a bit of a maniac. You've got a point. I guess that's where you get it from, Lloyd laughed, before taking out what looked like a scroll from his ring. Take this and memorize it. As a rank 1 magus, you can now use spells. Liam's eyes stuck to the scroll like glue, and he instantly grabbed it and opened its contents. Like the previous spells he had inspected, the metal scroll had glowing diagrams, resembling a mix of runes and inscriptions, covering its surface. After 30 minutes, Liam memorized the spell diagrams, and those exact writings appeared on his mental sphere walls. Try using it, Lloyd called out. The name of the spell is Fleeting Foot. It's only rank 1, and basically makes you move faster. Liam nodded. With a thought, the runes in his mind started to buzz, consuming a chunk of mental energy, and causing a yellow glow to envelop his hands and feet. Instantly, he unsheathed his blades and started to swing them, each of its movements a barely visible flicker. He practiced his leg movements too, and his body was incredibly fast, turning into a blur. The effect lasted for 15 seconds, before eventually dissipating, giving Liam a small headache in the process. Neat. I don't suppose it lasts longer? Lloyd shook his head. That's the spell's limit. You should only use it during emergencies, or sure-kill moments. How much did it cost? Liam curiously questioned. Lloyd let out a wry sigh. Spells are expensive, even more than techniques. I've sold most of mine already, and that's the only one I have. It cost me 375 merit points to get from the guild. Still, I was fairly weak at the time, so I couldn't complete high-stakes missions. Liam's eyes widened at those words. Even with all his savings, he barely made it past 240 points, which could land him a decent rank 2 or even rank 3 technique. But nearly 400 points for a rank 1 spell was ridiculously overpriced. Not to mention, it only made him faster. It's normal. Spells exponentially boost a cultivator's prowess and can express their power fully, especially through their mental spheres and cores. The body is often underestimated. Prepare for the next few months well. You'll need every bit of help you can get. Reach out if you need anything. Lloyd threw a jade Liam's way, which he had already explained how to use a moment prior, before departing ways. Liam heaved a long sigh. I need to meet Revel.